Hi everybody, and welcome to this Killer Coach Academy foam rolling class for the entire body. This should take us about 10 minutes, give or take, and we'll get the whole body in, finish out with some good shoulder mobility, spinal stretching, hip stretching, which everybody needs, especially if you're a cyclist or a runner. And we'll finish up with a deep psoas release to combat all of the sitting we do. So let's get started. I'm using a pretty soft foam roller for the majority of this class. And I really like the long foam rollers. As you'll see, they come in quite handy. But I do have some various other tools that we might swap them out for. And we'll see how things go. So let's get started with our knees bent. We'll put the foam roller kind of just behind our glutes with the feet flat on the floor. And we'll rock backwards, supporting the neck, lifting the hips up, and we'll just start with some nice gentle spinal rolls up and down. I really like the foam roller for recovery after a hard workout or some relaxation. It's just a really good way to, get a good self-massage in and recover from the day's workout. So the most important things to remember, especially with this particular exercise, is just start out easy. You'll see that my spine's mostly neutral. I'm just kind of right in the center. I'm not going too crazy with the pressure. If it's too painful, just put your glutes down and you can take some of the pressure off that way. But the higher you lift your hips, the more pressure squeezes the muscle into the bone, and it works on all those layers. So you've got fascia, you've got blood vessels, you've got nerves, you've got tendons that you're rolling over. It's really kind of non-specific work. So really just let the feeling guide you. If it hurts, then don't do it. If it feels good, or you feel like you have a knot or a really tight muscle somewhere, just linger there. You don't have to go straight up and down the way that I'm doing. You can kind of roll off to one side, put the pressure a little bit more onto one shoulder blade, or you can roll off to the other side and roll out those lats. And then I like to drop my hips, start about mid-back, and I like to just support my neck. I'm actually pulling my head that way, so away from my body, as I support my neck, and I'm just trying to lengthen my spine. So as you exhale, just drop your head down towards the floor, just as far as feels good. And then I'm going to bring myself back up and just kind of walk up the spine that way, just kind of extending back over the roller from all that time that we spend hunched. Again, I'm really kind of elongating my neck by pulling and extending through my spine as I extend over the foam roller. I can go a couple more levels. It's a little harder when you're rolling onto your shoulder blades, but it feels good, so we'll linger there for a minute. Really extending, kind of driving the tailbone into the floor as you look back behind you. Okay, so we'll bring the head up nice and slow. Now we'll focus on the low back, so we'll put the roller way back down under the low back, lift the hips up, and kind of put all the pressure on your elbows. So I'm actually taking my arms and I'm pushing my shoulder blades down, just a little bit of a posterior pelvic tilt. Just kind of letting, an anterior, just a little bit of an anterior pelvic tilt. And really just tractioning the spine, so pressing those arms down and extending through my head. Okay, let's get up here and we'll start to focus a little bit more on the glutes. So we'll get up on top of the roller, and then we'll put one leg up on, we'll put one ankle on the opposite thigh, roll over to the side, the left side I'm doing first. And just start rolling out the meat of the hips. So I'm on my glute medius and my glute max. I'm just kind of massaging all of those tissues. There's also those deep hip rotators in there. So those ones that kind of get really aggravated from just all the lateral motion, or the linear motion rather, not lateral, of cycling and running. You know, we do everything kind of straightforward. There's not a lot of rotation, there's no sidestepping. So those muscles get kind of tight. It feels good to roll them out. If you find a really tight spot, just sit and breathe for a second. You know, just take a deep breath and just let the tension of the muscle relax. You're not trying to make it real painful. You don't want to tense up in response to the foam roller. You want to just really let those muscles kind of melt around the roll. Okay, let's switch legs. So we'll take the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Lean a little bit over towards your right. Most of the weight's on my arms and the glute, obviously, that I'm sitting on the roller on. So we'll just keep rolling out this side, just back and forth, kind of wiggling around side to side laterally, just trying to find all the areas that feel good to roll on. And that's where we're going to linger. Got a little knot right there. I can feel it right on my piriformis, it feels like. And I'll just let that muscle kind of relax if I can. Just with one breath. Okay, let's focus on now the hamstrings. So we'll roll over to the side of the thighs that go down the legs. We'll start walking ourselves back. It's important to kind of keep your spine straight. Don't collapse on the roller like this. Just try to keep the back straight. You can control the roller with your hands, or you can put your hands on the floor behind you. And then just lift your legs straight up. Just contract the quads. And then we can just roll forward and back on those hamstrings. So let's push that roll back that way. So I'll start just kind of on the top side of the knee, just above the knee joint, and I'll just start rolling forward and back. And I'll tell you, mostly people will have some knots. It's pretty common to have tight areas right mid-muscle belly, which is about right there for me. A little bit lateral. Those are kind of little adhesions that don't allow the muscles to glide nicely over each other from previous injuries, or maybe just slight little hamstring tears. Or a lot of people, myself included, have had high hamstring tears. So right as they come off of the sits bones, where they originate from, those hamstring muscles. That's really hard to roll with the foam roller. It almost disperses it too much. So we might need to use like a little lacrosse ball or something a little bit smaller to really get on that insertion, or that origin point of the hamstring. Okay, so once we get those hamstrings rolled out, we can go to the sides of the legs. So we'll kind of cross our legs over and get up on our hands with both hands in front. And we'll just kind of roll out that lateral thigh. A lot of adhesions on here, or little sticky spots on those muscles, is actually the fascia attaching that IT band to the front of the quad. I have a spot right there, so I'm going to kind of take a little pressure off by lifting myself up and then slowly letting my body weight sink down on that spot and trying to breathe, because it's painful. And you can actually feel it releasing. So if you feel it releasing, then you can kind of chase it around a little bit if you lean forward or back. And you can feel it just kind of letting go, hopefully. Probably the most painful area to roll is that lateral thigh. So we'll go up and down that thigh just a few times, just trying to find those little spots, rolling the whole thing out. And we can kind of roll forward, get a little bit more of the quads, and then roll back, get a little bit more where the hamstrings come down. Now I got one more tight spot right there, so I'm going to kind of rotate forward and back on it. Try to breathe. Find a spot on your leg, on that lateral thigh, that you really feel that pressure, and just kind of work into it for a couple of breaths. And then we'll switch sides here in a second. Now you want to stay off those bony landmarks. You want to stay off the hip, the ball joint, and you want to stay off the outside of that knee joint for sure. want to stay on that meaty part of the muscle. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to push the muscle against the bone and give it a little bit of a massage. Okay, so let's flip over and we'll get up on our side on this side. So that leg goes out in front. Both hands onto one side and just position the roller down that outside, the lateral part of your thigh. And we'll just roll out this right lateral thigh a few times. Just kind of up and down that leg. Woo! I think this side's tighter on me than the other. And when you find a spot, just kind of linger there. Take the pressure off by pushing yourself up. I'm pushing down into my foot and this hand. I'm trying to get some of that weight off of the sore spot. And then just let the body respond by melting into that foam roller. Just let it settle. And then when it starts to feel better, you can kind of, you can just move around forward, closer to the quadricep. And we'll roll the whole length there. When you get around, just up from the knee joint, you can kind of rotate side to side, looking for any of those sticky spots. Ouch. Okay, I think that's enough of that. Let's move on to the calf muscles. So let's get that roller about mid-calf. We'll get up by lifting, pushing straight down through the arms. And then we'll just kind of rotate, click, click, rotate those feet around and roll that out up to the knee joint, flexing the foot and rolling around, forward and back on those calves. And then if you want a little bit more pressure, you can actually stack, so the bottom calf would be getting rolled out here. Stack those legs up and it just intensifies that pressure just a little bit more. Making sure to roll side to side, focus on that lateral gastroc and soleus, and then the medial gastroc and soleus. This is a good core workout on this one too. And shoulders. All right, let's switch over to the other leg. So stack the left on top of the right. And let's roll lateral. And we can do some medial rolls on that one. We'll go one more time on each side. Oh, that was a sticky spot. Let's get on. Find any sticky spots, just sit there and kind of try to work it out. So just moving that lower ankle around just a little bit to try to really get into those areas that feel tight with the pressure. You're just trying to compress that muscle and all of those different tissues up into the bone. Okay, great. The next part is probably my favorite, and that is breathing. So we're going to actually lie on the foam roller with our buttocks at the end, knees bent. Line the spine up along the center of the roller, and you're just trying to kind of, let's go ahead and tilt the pelvis posteriorly. This would be anteriorly, so we're trying to tilt it posteriorly. Get rid of that little dead space underneath your low back, so try to imprint your whole spine down onto the roller. And we're just gonna sit here for a little bit, just trying to get our head and neck relaxed. You might wanna elongate your spine just a little bit and kind of just flatten out all those curves. Of course, there'll always be a little bit of a curve here underneath the head and neck. And just take a couple of deep breaths in, trying to expand your ribs in 360 degrees as you inhale. And then all the air out as you exhale. Try not to grip with your hips or your legs. You're just trying to be real relaxed on there. So you'll feel your spine kind of just like melting over the roller. And then you're, instead of sitting all day, now we're in the exact opposite position. So this is a great stretch if you've done a lot of sitting. Okay, then we'll take both arms straight up overhead, trying to keep the shoulders down out of the ears, so we don't want to be up like this. So shoulders down, elbows straight, and we'll just start rotating our arms in the socket. We'll just kind of twist them inward, and then we'll twist them outward. Trying to keep that spine lined up and relax. Shoulders down out of the ears. Good, and then we'll reach the one side longer. Really pinch the roll behind you. Reach the other side longer. Breathe in as we go. Go back to the right and reach. Pinch. Left. And pinch it back. Let's do both now for 3. Pinch. Reach up, elbows straight, shoulders down. And last one, reach straight up and shoulders down. Good. Now we're going to take our arms and we're going to drop them out to the sides into a T position. You're trying to get the back of the hands. Not only are we reaching down towards the floor, we're reaching long away from our body. Spine is still on the roller. You're reaching and you're pushing your arms away from your torso as far as you can. Really reach with them. Couple of deep breaths here, really stretching and reaching those shoulders away. You'll feel that down the insides of your arms, maybe even into your wrists and shoulders. And then we'll slowly slide our hands up towards our head. We'll try to keep our forearms on the floor without having our back pop up. And we'll just stretch in this W position. This is a really good chest opener. If your arms don't touch the floor, just let them hang in a W position. If you really want to get your arm on the floor, roll off to one side, touch that arm down. Don't worry about this one for a minute. And then just roll away from that half W. So we're rolling this direction with our body. So I'll show you with my knees. That direction. Trying to keep that arm down, so the left arm's down. If it feels okay though, let's go back to both arms, really stretch it out, keeping that low back down on the roller, keeping your chin tucked, looking straight up at the ceiling. Couple of more deep breaths here in what I call this W position. And you'll feel those muscles in the front of the chest really relax. And it is pretty common for one side to be a lot tighter than the other. Okay, let's go ahead and take both arms straight up overhead again. And then we're going to drop them over our head. Try not to let those shoulders come up towards your ears. Just drop them slowly overhead in what I call the I position. Again, try to get the thumb and index finger to touch, really reaching far away from your body. Low back down, hips relaxed, and just take a couple nice deep breaths here. Stretching your arms away from your body as far as they'll go, without turtling your shoulders and neck like this. So nice and long through the neck, ribs and low back down. Let those arms just reach and drop. Okay, great. Let's go back through the W position, trying to keep those forearms as close to the floor as you can. Good, and then we'll just stretch them down by our sides. And then we'll slowly and carefully, gracefully roll off the roller and push it out to the side. And let's just lie on the floor like this. You'll feel like you still have a bit of a roll underneath there. It's gone, it's out. But just let your spine kind of just settle back towards the floor. Just take a couple deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. And you'll slowly feel everything kind of come on back down. Okay, I said the last thing was my favorite, but this last thing truly is my favorite. So this is, we're going to start with a quad roll, so for both of the front of the thighs, and then we'll go into a deep psoas release. So get yourself back up, we'll get over the front of the foam roller, and we're going to roll out the quads. We'll start at the knees. I'm going to get the legs on there, get down onto the elbows, kind of like a plank position, and then you'll have your feet come up off the floor, and we'll just start rolling backwards and forwards over the roll. Real graceful. So forward, you can put your feet down if it's too much pressure. Go all the way down and then roll all the way back up. If it feels good, you can let your spine kind of drop, go into some extension. Back and forth, you can bend your knees. You can rotate your hips as you go, keeping your feet together or apart. Do whatever feels good on your body. You can even roll the inside, get that inside of that right thigh. So putting a little more pressure just right in through this inner seam right here. Back and forth. And I'll rotate a little bit on that other leg. Get that vastus medialis, that inside of that quad muscle, which is really tight on that leg. Whew. If you find a good spot, just linger. You don't have to stay with me in the way that I'm rolling. Just go forward and back, finding those spots. Rotating side to side if that feels good. And then finish up with a couple more big rolls. Maybe knees bent. Maybe walking the feet along. Breathing and trying to relax. Okay, now let's get the foam roller kind of wedged into where our stomach is. So our psoas is that muscle that runs up the hip flexors in through here, and it actually attaches to our lower 3 lumbar vertebrae. So if you're sitting a lot, it tends to shorten that muscle. So it feels really nice to get a good psoas release by taking the foam roller and putting it between the front of your hip, which is actually your pelvis, the ASIS, and your last lower rib. So it's a small area. You're trying to get the foam roller to settle itself. Hopefully you didn't just have a big meal. And what we're going to try to do is try to turn those ab muscles off and let that foam roller just sink straight in. So it's actually pushing on organs, it's pushing on everything. It's pushing everything straight up into that psoas muscle. You might need to roll forward just a little bit. Make sure that you're straight. You can kind of go side to side and really let it settle in. And then the idea is we're going to lay down onto the back of our hands. We'll stack them out here in front of us. And we're just going to sit on the front of this roller and let that roll just kind of sink into our abdomen and give us a nice psoas release. So we'll take a couple more deep breaths here, which is easier said than done. Now, if this is painful, then obviously just go ahead and get up and, we'll try it again another time, or you can try something softer than this foam roller. I can actually feel my pulse now. Couple more deep breaths here. And then it's important when we get up to slowly let this pressure release. It's really hard to let gravity take over and just sink into this foam roller in this position. Okay, let's get back up onto our elbows. Kind of a extend through your head and spine. And then we'll slowly move that roller from its position. Woo! All right. So that's our foam rolling workout. That was 25 minutes worth of foam rolling. So you can see how good it feels, and I just wanted to keep on going. So I hope you enjoyed that class, and you can come back to it at any time when you're feeling tight or you need a good foam roll. Yeah, so this is Tricia with Killer Coach Academy. So enjoy your foam rolling and happy training.